When the RMS Titanic was built, it represented the height of engineering and design for its time. It was large, advanced, and carefully constructed using the best knowledge available in the early 20th century. Please subscribe. Yet when we look back at what happened, an important question arises. Were there design mistakes that contributed to the outcome? The answer is complex, not a single flaw, but a combination of decisions that, together, shaped the ship's fate. One of the most discussed aspects of Titanic's design is its watertight compartment system. The ship was divided into multiple sections, each separated by bulkheads designed to contain water in case of damage. This was considered a major safety feature, and under certain conditions, it worked exactly as intended. However, the system had limitations. The bulkheads did not extend high enough, which meant that as water filled the forward compartments, it could eventually spill over into the next ones. This created a chain reaction, where flooding moved from one section to another. This design choice was not necessarily seen as a mistake at the time. It reflected the understanding of risk and engineering priorities of that era. The ship was designed to withstand damage to a limited number of compartments, not the kind of extended impact it experienced. But in practice, this limitation became a critical factor. Another aspect often discussed is the materials used in construction. The hull of the RMS Titanic was built using steel plates and rivets. These materials were standard for the time, but under certain conditions such as very low temperatures, they could behave differently. The cold environment of the North Atlantic may have influenced how these materials responded to stress, affecting the extent of the damage. The arrangement of lifeboats is also considered when discussing design decisions. While the ship carried lifeboats in accordance with the regulations of the time, the number was not sufficient for everyone on board. This was not purely a structural design issue. It was also influenced by regulations and aesthetic considerations. Key design prioritized open deck space and visual appeal, which affected how lifeboats were arranged and how many were included. Another important factor was the ship's size and structure. The RMS Titanic was one of the largest ships ever built at the time, and its size introduced new challenges. Large structures behaved differently under stress, and the forces acting on the ship during the final moments were significant. The design did not fully account for the extreme conditions created by the combination of flooding and structural strain. It is also important to consider how design interacts with real-world conditions. A ship can be designed based on certain assumptions, but when those assumptions are exceeded, the design is tested in ways that may not have been anticipated. In the case of Titanic, the combination of impact damage, water, ingress, and environmental factors created a situation that went beyond typical expectations. Looking back, it is easy to identify these aspects as mistakes, but they are better understood as limitations of the time. Engineering is always evolving, and what seems sufficient in one era may be seen differently in another. The Titanic's design reflected the best available knowledge, but it also revealed areas where that knowledge could be improved. The lessons learned from these design aspects had a lasting impact. After the disaster, ship design standards were revisited and improved. Bulkheads were extended higher, materials were studied more carefully, and safety considerations became more central to the design process. These changes helped shape the development of safer ships in the years that followed. More than a century later, the story of the RMS Titanic continues to be studied, not just as a historical event, but as a case study in engineering and design. It shows how multiple factors can combine to create a critical situation, and how understanding those factors can lead to improvement. In the end, the design of Titanic was not defined by a single error. It was defined by a series of choices based on knowledge, assumptions, and priorities. And when those choices met reality, they revealed their limits. A powerful reminder that even the most advanced designs must always account for the unexpected.